Hello, welcome back to another video on my channel. I have been working on this video for a while. I filmed it about a week ago, but I was sick and I wanted to do a voiceover, but my voice was so bad back then. So I'm finally getting around to finishing editing it, doing the voiceover. I made 2 new sourdough recipes. I'm fairly new to sourdough. I started making sourdough bread in September. I got a starter from my sister, and I decided to try a couple new non-bread items. So the first recipe you're gonna see is going to be a Cheez-It cracker recipe. I just was super excited to make this just because it's so different from anything I've ever made before. And then the second recipe is a garlic knot recipe that I was making for dinner to go along with some spaghetti that night. So I hope you enjoy. I am doing minimal edits on this video, so it is going to be more long form, slower, seeing every detail. I hope you enjoy that. And thank you for watching my video, and I hope you come again. As you can see from the microwave, it is early in the morning. This is a Friday, and I woke up early just for the fun of it, to be honest. The older I'm getting, the harder it is for me to sleep in. I absolutely cannot sleep in. So I figured that this would be a good time just to get started. I've had a couple things on my plans as far as the sourdough goes for this day. So I did want to get started on the first recipe, which is a Cheez-It cracker recipe. I wanted to get going on this because I needed to this is using sourdough discard. And the next recipe I'll be making was going to be with active sourdough starter, and so I needed to get rid of some of this discard and then feed it again and grow it. So I wanted to get going in the morning so I would have time. So this recipe actually uses quite a bit of discard. I was quite surprised, but then I realized when I got reading the recipe that that's basically most of the flour and most of the water in the recipe. I will try to link these recipes down below. I don't know them off the top of my head, and I didn't write it down. Well, I did write it down, but I don't have it with me at the moment. But just adding some spices. I know this recipe did have some cayenne pepper, some smoked paprika, which is my favorite spice. And then a little bit of flour, some butter. I was quite surprised when I started adding the cheese in. It called for 8 ounces of cheese, I remember, and I guess in my head, I set the scale to the ounces, and zeroed it out, and I don't know what I thought 8 ounces was, but I just kept adding more, and I'm like, okay, that's not even getting close to the amount. Kept adding more. Well, then I realized my bag of cheese is 12 ounces, and it was 3 cups. So then I realized, okay, I need 2 cups of cheese. But it was just funny how I just kept adding more, and it wasn't even getting close to the amount. As I was stirring this up, I was just starting to think that there was not enough liquid in this recipe. It was very, very dry. And I just thought, I think I may have ended up adding a little bit more water because in my head, I just thought it was never going to come together. So I just keep stirring. And it's still not coming together. I then decided that maybe it was like a pie crust, and you just have to just work with it and it will eventually come together. So I decided to pour it out onto the counter and just start kneading away. And I could tell right away that it was definitely going to come together. It just needed quite a few kneads, and then it ended up all coming together and turned into a nice ball of cheese dough. Once it came into a nice ball like this, the recipe said to chill it for an hour or so. I think I ended up leaving it in the refrigerator for a few hours until I felt like dealing with it again. I needed to feed my starter so it could double in size before I made my next recipe. So I wanted to get that last recipe going and fed my starter. Was hoping that my house would be warm enough for it to grow. It is the middle of winter here, and I am struggling some to get my starter growing unless I have the oven going while I'm doing that. It can take a while. So I wanted to get this going. I think it's about 6:30 in the morning here. And I had plans for dinner with these garlic knots that I'm going to make next. So I needed that to get going. I have learned that my starter, when I'm doing it, it needs to be a little bit thicker than I intended. When I first started sourdough, I was measuring with a scale. I've since learned that I can kind of go by feel now. But I have also learned that it does need to be a little bit thicker than I had first thought. So if you're struggling with your starter growing, you might need maybe a little bit more flour to feed it. Back to the Cheez-It crackers. As you can tell by the microwave, it is a few hours later in the day. The sun has risen and it is time to get these crackers rolled out. This proved to be more of a challenge than I anticipated. It was quite the arm workout to roll out this dough. It was very cooled and it had solidified quite a bit in the fridge, and rolling it out was a little bit of a challenge. It took quite a while to roll out, even dividing it in two, and you just have to stick with it. It eventually gets rolled out to the thickness that the recipe said. I think it was like a 1/16 of an inch. I probably was a little bit thicker than that, but this part of the recipe was probably the longest portion of time that it took. I baked these for most of the time, and then once the timer went off, I decided to cut them again and try to separate them out. And I think I baked them a little bit longer. But these actually turned out quite delicious. We really enjoyed the extra crispy bits on the edges. And I just had a couple the other day, and they are still crunchy. They do get more crunchy or crisp, the thinner ones. One of the pans I did was a little bit thicker, and they didn't crisp up quite as well, but these were very delicious. Okay, now we are on to the garlic knots. These look super delicious. I find all my recipes on Pinterest. I am often scrolling, whether I'm trying to menu plan or look for new sourdough recipes. I pretty much find everything on Pinterest. So these ones looked really good. I thought it was a little different twist, pun intended, than just a garlic stick or garlic bread with spaghetti that night. The garlic knots just look like a fun addition to dinner. So I am just adding everything to my bowl here on the scale. It's funny, I remember years ago looking at recipes and they would just have like the grams instead of like cups and teaspoons and stuff. And I just remember, like, if it ever said that, I would just X out of the recipe because I don't know what 100 grams is. You know, I'm American. I don't know that stuff. And but when my sister gave me this sourdough recipe, I had a food scale already, and I had learned how to use it. And now it's you know, I see other recipes on Pinterest, just baking recipes, and I've kind of decided that I actually prefer a recipe that goes by grams and weight instead of by cups. It's just you use less dishes when you are just zeroing out your scale and just pouring it into the bowl instead of using a cup and a spoon and a this or that. And I've just really come to really enjoy weighing out ingredients. Again, it's not perfect. You can't always just go by weight. You have to have a sense for what you're making, but for the most part, I've really been enjoying this type of baking. My mom got me a few of these wool covers. Well, I have a little one for my sourdough starter. I have this one that goes over a large bowl, and then I have one that actually sits underneath my starter to keep it warm, and I really like them. This dough did not exactly work as I was hoping it would. I thought I started it early enough in the day. At the time here that I'm kneading this, it's about noon. And so I thought I had given it plenty of time. Now you see it's almost 3:30, and my dough absolutely did not raise at all. It was supposed to double in size, and it didn't do anything. And here it is, it's almost dinner time, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have a backup. I don't know what's gonna happen when I go to bake these up, but I just figured I don't have anything else, so we're just gonna bake them up and see how they turn out. And you'll see in a little bit how they did turn out. So after you got them all in knots, you were supposed to cover them, let them sit for another hour, and they were supposed to raise again. They didn't raise again. They didn't really do anything. This is the garlic butter that I'm making to put on top of them after they come out of the oven. Just some butter, some frozen garlic cubes, and frozen basil cubes. This is what they look like when they came out of the oven. Again, they didn't get any larger, they never puffed up any bigger. Just spreading on that garlic butter. And it smelled amazing as soon as it hit that hot garlic twist or garlic knot. It smelled delicious. It's funny, these didn't do what I thought they were going to do or what I thought they were supposed to do. But when we sat down for dinner, we bit into them, everyone loved them. They were perfectly cooked inside, they were not doughy at all. The crumb was perfect, a little bit crispy, crunchy on the outside, and perfectly soft on the inside. So I will definitely be making these again, regardless of whether they raise like they are supposed to, they were still delicious. Happy sourdough baking!